Hello, friends. Today we delve into a family gathering that masks more than just laughter. This is the story of Elena, a woman caught in the web of hidden betrayals and unspoken truths. As the smiles around her hide dark secrets, we will explore the price of silence in familial bonds. Watch closely. Elena sat on the edge of the worn-out sofa, the fabric rough against her fingertips, a silent observer in the cacophony of familial laughter and chatter that filled the room. The living area was suffused with the soft glow of the afternoon sun, illuminating dust motes that danced like ghosts in the air. Yet, despite the light, a shadow loomed inside her, a growing unease that twisted her stomach. The atmosphere, vibrant and seemingly joyous, belied the turmoil that churned within her. Her family gathered around the dining table, plates piled high with the remnants of a hastily prepared meal. Mark, her brother-in-law, animatedly recounted a story from his childhood, his laughter echoing in contrast to the tightening grip of Elena's unease. She watched as Sophie, her mother-in-law, leaned back in her chair, a satisfied smile painted across her face. The matriarch content to orchestrate the family narrative as if it were a well-rehearsed play. But beneath the surface, the cracks were beginning to show. Elena's thoughts spiraled back to the unspoken truths that lay hidden, betrayals masked by the veneer of family loyalty. The weight of those secrets pressed down on her chest, and she could feel the walls of silence closing in like a closed door, sealing away the reality that threatened to break through. Was silence truly a shield, or merely a breeding ground for deception? Would speaking out fracture the fragile bonds they shared? Or could revelation lead to healing? She shifted in her seat, her heart racing as she considered the impending confrontation. How could she bring herself to break the silence that had bound them all in this unholy alliance of denial? Each laugh that erupted from her family felt like a shallow echo, drowning out the screams of her conscience. Her mind raced with images of what might happen if she dared to expose the truth. The fear of rupturing their family ties coiled tightly around her, suffocating her resolve. Mark's laughter pierced through her reverie, and she caught his eye, his gaze warm and trusting. He had no idea of the betrayals lurking in the shadows, nor of the storm brewing inside her. She felt the pull between loyalty and integrity, a tug of war that left her breathless. The familiar warmth of familial love felt increasingly tainted by the stench of silence. Was she betraying them by even considering the truth? The tense silence of her thoughts was shattered as Sophie turned to her, a brow raised in inquiry. "Elena, dear, you're awfully quiet today. Everything all right?" The question hung in the air, sharp and pointed, cutting through the fabric of cordiality. Elena swallowed hard, the weight of a million words lodged in her throat. She wanted to scream, to tear down the facade, yet her lips remained pressed together, betraying her inner turmoil. The closed door loomed larger, a barrier she felt increasingly powerless to breach. As Mark continued his tale, the laughter resumed, but Elena's heart beat in a different rhythm, a chaotic symphony of dread and determination. She looked around the room, at the faces she loved, and felt the first stirrings of resolve. If she remained silent, would they ever confront the truths that threatened to tear them apart? Would they forever be prisoners of their own making, clinging to the illusion of harmony while the truth festered beneath the surface? In that moment, the question lingered in the air, both unspoken and urgent. Can silence truly protect them from the truth? Or is the truth the only path to genuine healing? The choice lay before her, as heavy as the closed door that separated them from the reality they all avoided. Elena stood in the attic, the air thick with dust and the weight of memories. Sunlight filtered through a small, grimy window, casting a muted glow on the cluttered space filled with boxes and forgotten treasures. She had always avoided this place, a hidden corner of her family's history. But today felt different. Today, the past clawed at her, demanding to be acknowledged. As she sifted through the remnants of years gone by, her fingers brushed against a fragile, yellowed photograph. It was a family portrait, but the faces were distorted now, the smiles painted over with shadows of betrayal. The image captured a moment of unity, yet it felt like a lie, a facade that had long since cracked. She lifted it closer, the edges curling like the unsettling truths she had buried deep within her heart. Flashbacks surged forward, relentless and vivid. She could see Mark, full of laughter, his arm draped around Jacob, both oblivious to the whispers that danced behind closed doors. Sophie's voice echoed in her mind, a harmony of soothing words, masking the discord that simmered beneath. "Family is everything, Elena," she had said countless times, as if repetition could cast out the darkness. But now, Elena could hear the subtext, the unspoken rule that silence was loyalty, and loyalty was paramount, even when it suffocated the truth. The attic held more than dusty keepsakes. It bore witness to the tangled alliances that had formed as they all chose convenience over honesty. She remembered the late-night conversations with Jacob, the way he would avoid certain topics, deflecting with nervous laughter. He was a bridge between loyalty and truth, and she felt her heart fracture again as she realized how far gone they had all drifted. A surge of anxiety twisted in her stomach, pulling her down into the depths of guilt. The truth was a relentless tide, crashing against the walls she had built, demanding release. Could she continue living in this illusion of silence when the past was already eroding the present? The question echoed in her mind like a ghost, haunting her with its inevitability. Elena felt the weight of the photograph in her hands, the fractured image reflecting her own inner turmoil. It was a symbol of everything she feared to confront. What did it mean to hold on to such fragility? Each time she glanced at it, she was reminded of the hidden betrayals, the whispers, the glances, the moments when she chose to look away. It felt easier that way, didn't it? But now, the burden of inaction was crushing, and she could no longer ignore it. With a trembling breath, she allowed herself to relive the moments she had tried so hard to forget. There was the rift between Sophie and her sister, a silent war fought with passive-aggressive comments and veiled insults. Mark's trust in Jacob, forged in childhood, now stood on the brink of collapse, a delicate chain rattling under the weight of secrets. Each memory was a thread, fraying and ready to snap, pushing her to confront the reality instead of hiding behind the veil of family loyalty. Tension coiled within her, an internal struggle between the desire to protect and the need to be truthful. The attic felt like a confessional, a place where she could finally voice the fears that had kept her silent for too long. But what would happen if she spoke? Would the family bonds, already fragile, shatter completely? Or could the truth, however painful, pave the way for a new beginning? Elena's heart raced as she stood there, the photograph trembling in her hands. The answer remained shrouded in uncertainty, but the time for silence was fading. She had to choose between the comfort of denial and the sharp edges of reality. The air thickened with unspoken words. The conflict simmered like an unlit match awaiting ignition. And in that moment of reckoning, she knew she could no longer be a mere observer in her own life. The time for action was upon her, and the burden of truth loomed large, ready to transform everything she thought she understood about family. Elena stood in the dim light of their living room, the evening shadows creeping across the floor like the secrets she had kept for too long. The air felt heavy, almost suffocating, filled with unspoken words that weighed on her heart. Jacob sat on the worn couch, his eyes flickering between the TV and the stack of bills on the coffee table, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing within her. "Jake," she began, her voice barely above a whisper, as if speaking too loudly would shatter the fragile atmosphere. He looked up, his brow furrowing slightly. "Can we talk?" He nodded, setting aside the remote, his attention now fully on her. But the warmth of his gaze felt distant, like a flickering candle in a drafty room. Elena swallowed hard, the knot in her stomach tightening. This was the moment she had been dreading, the precipice of truth she teetered on. "There's something I need to tell you," she said, her fingers fidgeting with the hem of her sweater. "Something about my family. About us." The uncertainty in her voice hung in the air, thick and palpable. She felt the walls around her heart begin to close in, her pulse quickening in response to the weight of the words she was about to unleash. What if he didn't understand? What if this confession shattered the trust between them, twisting love into something dark and unrecognizable? "Whatever it is, you can tell me," Jacob encouraged, leaning forward, his expression shifting from curiosity to concern. The warmth of his support was a flicker of light in her anxious world, yet it felt fragile, like glass on the verge of breaking. Elena inhaled deeply, the air sharp and cold against her lungs. "I've been keeping secrets, things I thought I could protect you from. But pretending they don't exist is tearing me apart." The words spilled out in a rush, each syllable imbued with fear and urgency. "There are betrayals in my family, Jake. Ones that have haunted me. I can't stay silent anymore." Jacob's brow furrowed further, a storm cloud gathering in his eyes. "What kind of betrayals? Elena, what are you talking about?" She hesitated, the memories flooding back, a cascade of whispered conversations and fleeting glances that had woven a tapestry of deceit. "It's about my mother, and the things that happened before we got married. Things I never told you." The confession felt like a weight lifting and crushing her all at once. As she spoke, she could see the tension rise in his posture, the protective armor he instinctively donned against the encroaching shadows of her revelations. "Why didn't you tell me before?" he asked, hurt and confusion mingling in his voice. "How can I trust you if you're hiding things from me?" His reaction struck her like a blow. The very thing she feared was happening. This confession, meant to bring them closer, was pushing him away. "I thought I was protecting you. I thought if I kept it buried, it wouldn't hurt us," she pleaded, her voice trembling as the walls began to crack. Jacob's eyes softened for a moment, and she saw the flicker of understanding beneath his anger. "But silence is not protection, Elena. It's a poison. You should have trusted me enough to share this." The truth of his words cut deeper than she anticipated, and she felt the weight of her choices crashing down around her. The letter she had written weeks ago remained hidden, a symbol of everything she had kept inside, a catalyst for this moment of raw vulnerability. "I'm scared, Jake. Scared of losing you, of losing everything we've built together," she admitted, her voice thick with emotion. Tears brimmed in her eyes, threatening to spill over. "But I can't live in this silence anymore." The question lingered in the air, unspoken but echoing. Can you trust someone with the truth, even knowing it could break you? As the silence stretched between them, Elena felt both terrified and liberated. The choice lay before them, a crossroads forged in honesty and pain, where the path of integrity might very well lead to fracture. Yet, she had to hope that somehow, beyond the darkness of betrayal, there could be a flicker of healing waiting to emerge. Elena stood at the threshold of the room, the air thick with unspoken words, her heart pounding like a drum, echoing in a cavernous silence. The family gathering buzzed around her, laughter and chatter creating a facade of unity. But beneath it, an undercurrent of tension surged, one that she could no longer ignore. Her eyes fixed on Sophie, the matriarch, who sat regally at the head of the table, presiding over the gathering with an unyielding grip on the narrative of their family. Chained? Sophie's voice rose slightly, a flicker of anger igniting behind her calm facade. You're being dramatic. This family has survived because we uphold our values, our loyalty, our silence. Loyalty? Elena scoffed, the bitterness spilling from her lips like acid. What about the loyalty you showed when you turned a blind eye to the betrayals? What about the pain that festers while we pretend everything is fine? A moment of silence hung between them, thick and oppressive. The room was a battlefield, each family member a soldier, unsure of where to direct their loyalties. Mark shifted uncomfortably in his seat, glancing nervously between his mother and wife, caught in the crossfire of their confrontation. Elena's heart raced, the tension in the room wrapping around her like a vice. I can't keep pretending anymore. The truth is going to come out, whether we want it to or not. And if we don't face it, it will destroy us from the inside. Sophie's gaze darkened, her voice low but fierce. You're playing with fire, Elena. Do you truly believe that exposing our family secrets will heal us? You risk tearing apart everything we've built. Elena felt a surge of frustration, the weight of their family's history pressing down upon her. Maybe it needs to be torn apart. Maybe that's the only way we can rebuild something real, something honest. The words tumbled out, fueled by years of unrest, and she felt the heat of conviction replacing her earlier fear. Yet Sophie remained immovable, her eyes cold as steel. You think this is about honesty? It's about respect for the family, for our history. You're risking everything for a fleeting notion of truth. Is it fleeting, though? Or is it the only thing that can set us free? Elena's voice cracked, and for the first time, doubt washed over her. Was she truly prepared for the fallout? The family's unity had always been maintained by the delicate threads of silence. Would the truth unravel it all? A deep breath steadied her. Can we break these barriers, Mom? Can we confront this fear together? Or are we destined to live in chains? In that moment, as the two women faced off, the tension rippled through the room like an electric current. The question lingered in the air, heavy and suffocating. Would they choose to confront the truth, risking everything? Or would they retreat into silence once more, shackled by the weight of family loyalty? The answer hung uncertainly between them, a fragile thread waiting to snap. The dining room was bathed in the warm glow of a single overhead light, casting long shadows that danced along the walls, echoing the tension simmering beneath the surface. Elena sat at the table, her fork poised above her plate, the uneaten food growing cold as a thick silence enveloped the family. Mark, her brother-in-law, laughed nervously at a joke Sophie had made. But the laughter felt brittle, like glass on the verge of shattering. As the meal progressed, Elena's heart raced. Each bite felt heavier, laden with unspoken words. This was supposed to be a celebration of their family's togetherness, but the atmosphere crackled with an unacknowledged tension. She could sense it, an undercurrent of distrust swirling like a storm waiting to break. Elena. Sophie's voice cut through the tension. You've been unusually quiet tonight. Everything okay?" There was a sweetness to her tone that felt like syrup over a wound, masking the sharpness of the underlying inquiry. Elena's gaze darted to Jacob, her husband, seated across from her. His eyes were filled with a mixture of concern and resignation, the weight of their shared secrets pressing down on him. She could feel the heat of Mark's gaze, filled with a trust he didn't even know was misplaced. The foundations of their familial bonds were being tested, and the truth gnawed at her insides like a relentless predator. "Just thinking," Elena managed, her voice barely above a whisper. The words were a fragile shield against the impending storm, but it was too late. The dam was about to burst. "Thinking about what?" Mark pressed, genuine curiosity lacing his voice. The others leaned in, their interest piqued, unaware of the chaos that lay on the precipice. Elena's heart thundered in her chest. The fractured photograph of their family hung on the wall behind Sophie, a silent witness to the facade they had all constructed. It was a portrait of smiles, a snapshot of unity. But the cracks in its frame mirrored the fissures growing within their relationships. I don't think we can keep pretending," she said suddenly, the words spilling out before she could rein them in. "There are things we can't ignore any longer." The air thickened. Silence fell like a guillotine, and a palpable tension filled the table. Sophie's expression morphed from feigned concern to outrage, her matriarchal authority challenged. "Elena," she said, her voice trembling, "some things are better left unsaid. You don't understand the damage you could cause." Elena felt her breath catch in her throat. The very act of speaking felt like a rebellion against the unspoken rules that had governed their family for so long. "I understand that silence has only made us sick. We need to confront what's been hidden." Mark's confusion morphed into anger. "What do you mean? Are you saying our family is sick? That we are broken?" "Yes." Elena's voice rose, fueled by a mix of fear and desperation. "We are broken, and if we don't acknowledge it, we will never heal." Sophie's face hardened, her eyes narrowing as she glared at Elena. "You have no idea what you're talking about. Our trust in each other is what keeps us together. You're risking that for what? For a moment of emotional honesty?" "Emotionally honesty is what we need," Elena cried, her heart racing. "I'd rather risk losing you than continue living a lie." The room erupted into chaos, voices overlapping as family members began to shout and argue. The tension that had been simmering beneath the surface for so long finally erupted, raw and unfiltered. Mark's disbelief, Jacob's confusion, and Sophie's anger collided, each person grappling with their own pain and fear. Elena felt the weight of their collective resentment crash down around her. But amidst the turmoil, a flicker of resolve ignited within her. This was her moment, the moment she had longed for and dreaded all at once. "We can't keep pretending," she shouted, tears streaming down her cheeks. "We have to face the truth, even if it hurts." The silence that followed was deafening, the weight of her words hanging heavy in the air. Each family member sat in stunned silence, grappling with the reality that had just been laid bare. Slowly, Mark's expression shifted from anger to confusion, a storm of emotions swirling behind his eyes. "What truth?" he asked, his voice softer now, almost vulnerable. "Everything," Elena replied, her heart pounding. "The betrayals, the lies, the things we've ignored for so long." Sophie opened her mouth to protest, but the words caught in her throat. The matriarch's face paled, and for the first time, she seemed uncertain. Jacob's eyes flicked between them, his expression a mixture of concern and realization. Elena, if you really believe this, we need to talk about it, even if it's painful, he said slowly, his voice steady. With every word spoken, Elena could feel the weight of the unspoken truths beginning to fracture the silence that had held them captive for so long. They had entered a territory of vulnerability where healing was both risky and necessary. Elena took a deep breath, steeling herself for the confrontation that lay ahead. I need you to understand that silence won't protect us anymore. It hasn't protected us before. As she spoke, the air felt charged with possibility. Maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something new. A chance to confront their past, to break free from the chains of silence that had bound them for too long. In that moment, surrounded by the ghosts of their past, they stood on the precipice of transformation, ready to take the first steps toward healing. The broken photograph lay at their feet, an echo of everything they had hidden from each other. And yet, a reminder that even fractured relationships could be rebuilt, if only they were willing to face the truth together. Elena felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. A fragile flame, but a flame nonetheless. They might stumble, they might falter, but perhaps this was the beginning of a new chapter, one where trust could be rebuilt, one where the closed door could finally be opened. And with it, the possibility of true healing.